Today, I want us to think back of when we were a child, a young child. And the biggest problems we had then was worrying about whether we'd have a turn on the swing at recess, or your best friend said she wasn't your best friend anymore. And so you gave her a piece of candy and she changed her mind. She was your best friend again. Life was so much simpler back then, but it was also filled with imagination back then. We were capable of imagining so many things. One day we might be a bride or a fireman, and the next day we might be a dinosaur or a princess. And when we were those things, we fully believed that's what we were, and we bought into it. And while we were imagining that, we did everything we could to stay in that place. But as we grew up, society told us, don't daydream so much. You have to study hard. You have to get a job. You have to put money in the bank. And so our imaginations began to shrink some, and so much that we didn't use it that much. And our creativity began to become stifled. But there were some people who understood the importance of a good imagination and creativity. Think back of people like Walt Disney and Steve Jobs and J.K. Rowling, and even as far back as Thomas Edison. They used their creativity, they used their imagination, and they became very successful. Today, I want to talk about something that's closely related to the imagination, and it's something we call visualization. Visualization is when you create mental images in your mind that are very strong about an event. And the thing about our brain is that it can't distinguish between our thoughts and something that is real. And so it begins to make these connections, these neural pathways as being truth, even though we're only using it as visualization. Athletes use it all the time. They imagine themselves before the game, before the competition, what it's like to be on the court or in the field or at the edge of a diving board. And they use their five senses as much as they can. What does that ball feel like? What is the crowd doing? What are they wearing? Everything that they can bring in. And they really concentrate on that. And that's why they're so hyped up the day of competition, because they go in with that winning attitude. They have believed, they have used that visualization technique to know what it's like to win. And that's what they bring to the day of competition. Today, I want to talk about how I used visualization to tame my inner self critic. You know, that self critic is that voice inside of us that tells us all the things that we don't want to hear. It ridicules us, it gives us those negative thoughts, some of them so strong that it sort of brings us back to our childhood, and we cave in and we don't go for what it is that we want to go for. That was me up until about 6 years ago. I had a very vocal self critic. I listened to her, and I saw life more from the sidelines than I did being a participant. So, like I said, until about 6 years ago, that's how life was. And then I decided I'm going to try visualization because research shows that visualization is very effective. So, what I did was to give my self critic a name. And I chose a very unflattering name that I thought was unflattering. And I never share it because I don't want anybody's name to be the same or a relative. So it's just my secret. But I pictured her as an old, feeble woman. And she had messed up hair, all gray and long, and torn and tattered clothes, and she was short. So right away, you can see that I took away that power just from the way that I visualized her looking, the way she acted, the way she carried herself. And she was weak and feeble, so she didn't have that loud voice. And so whenever she would tell me that I wasn't good enough, or I couldn't do this because I wasn't thin enough, or I wasn't pretty enough, I would call her by name and I would say, I can do this. And then I would take action to go for it. And I believe those two are the things that changed my life. because it didn't matter if I succeeded or not. I took action, and that quieted her down. And the fact that I called her by name and I took away her power showed that I was the one in charge. And over time, my inner self critic became my inner self champion. And I don't hear from her very often. She may question me for some things, but she's not loud and vocal anymore. And do I succeed at everything I go for? Absolutely not. But now I'm taking action and I'm giving it a try. And those are the things that matter. So, if visualization, if this is something you haven't tried, I urge you to try it because research shows that it is effective. It's going to build those pathways for what it is you're trying to get accomplished. And so, know that it's not going to be an overnight thing. I had to do it day after day after day, but slowly she started to weaken and she became my inner champion instead. So I would like to open it up if there's anybody that wants to share how visualization worked for them or how they deal with their inner self critic. I'm opening up for a discussion right now.
I love that, Peggy. I love that you gave your inner critic a name and that you called her by name and that you basically, like you said, you took charge and you called her out. And I really love that because before she was running the show and sabotaging, everything in your life. And Nadine's here. Nadine knows we did many, many shows with the inner child. Reminds me a lot of the wounded inner child that is looking for love, that is looking for approval and acceptance. And that's what it reminds me of. And it's the same thing that I did in my life when I retired the judge, basically the person that was continuously judging everything that I was doing. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm not going to continuously keep judging myself because I'm going to put a boundary, a line in the sand, and I refuse to judge myself. So it's amazing what happens when we take charge in our lives, like you did, like I did, like many of us here in our community are doing, and what we're inspiring all of us, all of you to do as well, is to draw a line to uh, bring into awareness the parts of yourself where you've kept yourself small or hidden. Like you said, Peggy, for
Mhm.
6 years, it took a while to get to this point because we've been listening to that inner voice, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I look back and I don't know how she became so vocal. I guess because I was always shy and timid, and when I started hearing it, the self-doubt, I listened, and as I listened, it grew and it became more vocal. And over the years, the decades, that's just why it just got so out of control. But I'm just so glad that I was able to get her back, get her tamed enough that I could just reach out and take her power away. So that we're out of time. So make sure you look for upcoming episodes on the KS Media Group app. Go to the directories and look at all of the different thought leaders. Like I said at the beginning, you're going to see all of the things that they cover. So many different topics that you're sure to find some that you're going to get some value out of. Take the time to look at all of these. It's surely going to be worth your while. And this is part of the beloved 7-day experience. So you can find something 7 days of the week right here in the KS Media Group app. I'm Peggy Bell, reminding you to go out and live your purpose because life is short. So make it count. Until next time.